When you type google.com into your browser, your computer somehow finds the correct server among billions of machines on the internet, and it usually does this in less than 50 milliseconds. This happens using something called the Domain Name System, or DNS. DNS translates human-readable website names into IP addresses that computers use to communicate. Let's see what happens behind the scenes. When you enter www.google.com, the browser first checks its own DNS cache. If the address was recently looked up, the browser already knows the IP address and can connect immediately. If not, the operating system cache is checked. DNS responses include something called a time to live, or TTL, which tells the system how long an address can stay cached. If the address is not cached anywhere locally, the request goes to a DNS resolver. The resolver is usually run by your internet service provider or public services like Google DNS or Cloudflare DNS. Its job is to find the IP address of the domain. The resolver also checks its own cache because many users often request the same websites. If the resolver still doesn't have the answer, it begins a hierarchical lookup. First, the resolver contacts a root DNS server. It asks where to find information about .com domains. The root server doesn't know the website's IP address. Instead, it returns the IP addresses of the servers responsible for the .com top-level domain, also called TLD servers. All .com servers contain the same database of .com domains and are replicated around the world, so DNS remains fast and reliable. The resolver simply chooses one of these servers, usually the fastest to respond. Next, the resolver asks the .com server, who manages google.com? The .com servers store information about millions of .com domains, but they don't store the IP addresses of the websites themselves. Instead, they store which authoritative DNS servers manage each domain. For google.com, the database points to Google's name servers, such as ns1.google.com and ns2.google.com. The .com server also returns the IP addresses of those name servers, so the resolver knows exactly where to send the next request. Now the resolver contacts one of Google's authoritative DNS servers. These servers store the actual DNS records for the domain. Here, the resolver finally receives the IP address of the website. The resolver sends the IP address back to the browser and also stores the result in its cache based on the TTL value. Finally, the browser connects to the server and loads the website. DNS works like a chain of referrals. The root server tells you where the .com servers are, the .com servers tell you who manages the domain, and the authoritative DNS server finally gives the actual IP address. And thanks to caching and DNS servers distributed all over the world, this entire process usually finishes in just a few milliseconds.